The Widow's Tale by Tom Prater. The Widow's Group was a revolving door for the likes of Mabel Pike, who was small of stature yet gave the impression of great importance. A continuous stream of new faces, each with an original but similar story to the rest, a story of hardship and heartbreak. They shared their tales and took comfort in the knowledge that others shared their sorrow. If you were to look down upon a session, I dare say it would resemble a broken circle, as if imitating that of a life that ended without completion, each woman sitting opposite another, understanding smiles on their lips, and each burdened with a gaping void in their hearts. Mabel sat in her accustomed seat, and eyed the woman around her with a deep fondness that can only be found between people who understand one another's pain. It was here where, once again, she shared her story, a tale of her late husband's passing from this world. I have faith that he did not die in pain. He held my hand until the end. In a way, I believe that he was comforting me. That was his way, you see. Mabel took a deep breath. The story never got easier. He was always a stubborn man. Everything had to be on his terms. Looking back now, some of his little mannerisms make me laugh. The knives and forks had to be arranged in a certain way or they wouldn't wash, he would say. His pyjamas always had to be kept under his pillow. She felt a smile start to form. It was these memories that kept her out of the hospital, away from the disinfection spray and the uncomfortably bright lights. However, sometimes she had to go back. Sometimes those final moments were worth remembering. When his only choice was to let go, he did so. Lived too long, he said. It was peaceful in a way when he left. I think he had been preparing to do so for some time. Mabel struggled to get out the final words, but she knew they had to be said. The women had to understand. He's waiting for me to do the same now, when I'm ready. As is common with these groups, a sympathetic murmur would spread between the women. To an outsider, the shared stories would be somewhat tragic, but to the women, they knew that the real tragedy was what succeeded the death, the years of solitude and pain which would lead a widow to share her story with a group of such people. The group gathered each fortnight. Members came when their grief threatened to overwhelm their thoughts and left when they felt they could carry on as normal, but Mabel remained. One cog which, whilst rusty, was integral to the normal functioning of the machine. She was as much a part of the furniture as the chairs. It seemed to her that as soon as she learnt the names of her fellow circle members, they walked from the hall in which they met and stepped into the darkness of the night, after which she saw no hide nor hair of them again. The meeting would end and the members depart, some saying they would attend again, others saying that they had moved to a place where they were at peace with their grief, graciously thanking her for telling her tale. They would file out of the room one by one, leaving Mabel alone in the centre of the circle. Silence would fill the room, spreading to the dark corners, and, once they had left, Mabel would walk to a door at the side, a door which often went unnoticed. Its oak construct, which gave the impression of enormous weight, could be pushed with no effort. It was here she would be presented with a staircase made of pure gold. It shimmered, despite the darkness which surrounded it. Her ability seemed to deceive her stature, as she would climb the stairs with the youthfulness of a child. The stairs twisted high, reaching the peak of a tower. At the summit was another door. Science would tell you that this door could not exist. It simply hovered. Many would presume that this would be its most unusual characteristic. But eyes often deceive, for she could step through the seemingly solid wood and find herself in a new scene entirely. In front of her stretched golden light and clouds, a beauty that could not be matched by any man-made creation. The strangeness of the haven was simply not questioned here. Its immense scale and power were clear. In front of her a circle appeared, a circle of chairs made of silver and gold. The land would sparkle as Mabel stepped forward, her feet finding grass which remained the same vibrant green with each visit. Animals seemed to hold their breath, hidden beneath trees which basked in the sunlight. A brook babbled lazily in the distance. Mabel had the impression of time flowing slower here. She took her place next to a man, younger than her, but smiling with eyes that were filled with love and care for the woman. Every occasion she visited the circle, she was asked the same question. "Mabel Pike, are you ready?" The man had been there from the start, a continuous presence that filled the hole in her heart. It was the rest of the circle which would change. The chairs were filled with the women from the widow's group. Every woman who had left the group and thanked Mabel for her help in moving on. Each lady would smile at her, but in a contrasting way to how they used to. Their smiles were no longer filled with sympathy, but with hope, all praying that she would answer the same way they had when they entered the circle. But each time Mabel replied with the same sentence. "No, I'm not ready to let you go yet." The man would hold her hand in his and accept her answer, whilst the rest of the circle bowed their heads, understanding her struggle. The animals crept back to their homes. The stream continued to flow gently. It was after this that Mabel would take her leave of the group and retreat back down the staircase, back down to her space in the circle, and see a new group of women waiting patiently for the session to begin. She would take her place and, as she had rehearsed so many times before, tell her story, the widow's tale, in the hope that the woman would let go of their grief and, perhaps, that Mabel would be able to join the circle in the sky for which she had been yearning for over 17 years.